Hey, everybody, welcome to the first episode in a very long time of the Recovery Scene. I'm Leslie, I'm your host, just a mom of the podcast. Make sure you like and subscribe, or you hate puppies. Tonight we have Rob on, and Rob is going to share his story with us. As per usual, I'm not going to do a long intro. I am going to hand the stage over to Rob, and it's your floor. Thanks for being with us, and just being willing to share your story. And
Thanks, Leslie.
oh,
So I'm the eldest of four children. All four of us were adopted. I was born in South Korea, in Seoul. All of us were from South Korea. None of us are blood related. My mother could have children. So that's the story of how I came to be. At 6 months old, I came over, I flew over, and I was raised in Prior Lake, Minnesota. I went to school in Cottage Grove, Minnesota, and just a normal upbringing for the best that I can say. My dad was a mechanical engineer, worked for a power company, he worked for Cooperative Power, doing writing contracts for nuclear power plants and for the area, for the Midwest. So it ended up happening was somewhere along the way, my mom must have watched one too many John Wayne movies. And we all know John Wayne loved that country. So we moved to Colorado. And that would have been in 93. If we back it up, I guess 93. Back it up a little bit. I'm the eldest of four. The second child would have been Christina. But when she was to be 30, she passed away, and it was terrible. When she was born, she was born with a fibrosis of the kidneys. She wasn't given, doctor said she wasn't given more than a couple of years to live. So every day was a true blessing getting to live with her. We spent a lot of time in the children's ward in the hospital. I remember vividly remembering my sister loved KFC chicken. So we would bring KFC, we would sneak it into the hospital, bring KFC in, and we would have this family meal around my sister in her bed. It was tough, but it was good. It was good. She was the only child to make it out of that ward and she was in there, I think, 2 years, and out of 30 children, she was the only one to survive. So she was a real fighter.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Everything worked out really nice for her. And because of her kidney disease, she wasn't eligible for a transplant. So what ended up happening was the doctors were willing to give it a chance. And so she got her kidney transplant. Everything was great for a year. She got a year of her life back. It was absolutely amazing. And then it stopped taking.
Oh, no.
Right before her transplant, she was on several years of dialysis, and it was painful. She hated it. Well, the doctors came back when her kidney failed and said, well, you can survive, but you have to be on dialysis again. She said, no, thank you. I've been there, done that. And I salute her. She got to go out on her own terms. That's tough. I don't want to be selfish, but I know, my story, I wouldn't be here without, my higher power is definitely God, and 164 pages saved my life with the book of AA. And we'll get to that here in a little bit. But I truly believe in my heart of hearts that she's with God and she's looking down on me. And there's reminders of her every day. Little things, just the little things that I know that she's shining, she's smiling,
Right.
and she hopes that that we're all doing well. So, no
Absolutely.
different from, in the recovery community, we just lost Tim.
Right.
Crazy one-eyed chestnut. And that hurt. That hurt. But he was such a beautiful ball of shining light. And I don't think in a million years he would want us to all be sad. He would want us smiling and living our best lives. So that's, I don't want to let that ruin my life. And I know that there's a lot of folks that are really bummed out about it. My heart goes out to him.
He was a good guy.
My heart goes out to him.
He was a good guy.
Yeah, great guy. I feel bummed out because I didn't get to meet him. I didn't go to the grind last year. A lot of folks did. I was looking forward to meeting him at this year's grind.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I'm happy for him, and I'm grateful that he got his forever chip. He got to go up to the big man in the sky. He referred to his higher power as Gus, the guy upstairs. So
nice.
I'm beyond blessed. Beyond blessed to think about him looking down.
exactly. I did put on the live, I couldn't at his profile on this, but I did put on the live that we are going to dedicate this episode to Tim Crazy One Eye. He
Oh,
was. He was
that's
a
well then
darn good
perfect.
guy. Yeah,
Yeah,
I never got
and
to meet him either. I only talked to him through TikTok, but he was always quick with a smile and ready to laugh, and he was. You're right, and I like that. He got his forever chip. Nice,
yeah,
definitely.
and even now, he was a donor, so he got to give other people hope in life
Oh,
through
nice.
his organs. So
Right,
those little
right.
things, but
That's
those little
very
things are
cool.
big things. So I think it's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, it really is.
So let's see here. Somewhere in middle school, I got involved with my friend Chris Peterson, and we were, of all things, we were drinking amaretto. Now we
Mm.
were mixing that into, because amaretto, I don't know if you drank amaretto. Amaretto's terrible, and we decided to make it even better by mixing in with Kool-Aid. Now, not a great combination.
Right.
And that was also his folks smoked cigarettes. And that was where where we would pilfer cigarettes from his folks, and I would drink booze over at his house. Um, that was my introduction to alcohol, and that had to have been fourth or fifth grade that we were doing that,
Mm.
and started smoking and doing all that. So I it wasn't until let me turn my phone off. It wasn't until high school when I started smoking weed, and that was just a little bit of marijuana. It was harmless as far as I could tell.
Right.
And with some friends and I, we were going to the club, and one of my buddies pulled out a little bindle. It was this sad little sorry little one line of Coke that we all split up and thought it was really cool. And it wasn't enough to do anything, but I thought it was really cool doing it.
You're right.
And that kind of turned into different things. It was I went to school in Cottage Grove because I wanted to be. They had a JRTC program, and I wanted to be an Air Force pilot. I wanted to be a fighter pilot, something beyond belief. And so I was working on getting my appointment to the Air Force Academy. Now, I had 20/25 vision uncorrected, but I had 20/20 corrected vision. Well, I after I went to MEPS and I was told that I couldn't fly fighter jets, that completely fizzled my dream. And I don't
Yeah.
know about you, but personally, anything in my life, I need to have purpose. And I felt like my purpose was robbed. So what was I going to
Mm.
do? Well, I was fully committed into doing dumb stuff. And that equaled into, well, here we go. Here's the career. Here's the beginning of the career of the drugs and alcohol game. I was doing drugs
Right.
because I didn't want to feel. I was doing drugs and alcohol because I wanted to feel. I wanted to feel something
Right.
else the way that I felt. I wanted to do drugs and alcohol because I wanted to feel included in something.
It's
Because I
almost
felt
like
like the
you had
black
this,
sheep growing up.
yeah, like this one dream, this one, no plan B. And when that was taken away, you like you were floating rudderless, and
Yes.
yeah, it makes
Yeah.
sense that you would say, you would use drugs, you would use alcohol, because who wants to feel that kind of disappointment?
Yeah. As my grand sponsor, Tim Elliott or Skip Elliott would say, I had a case of the fuckets. And
Yeah.
it was a big one. And it destroyed me. But honestly, in retrospect, I don't want to give away the ending of the story, but in retrospect, everything has been amazing. All of the worst things in my life, because of my ability to pivot, pause, pray, and look for the
Right.
good, all of it's been great. All of it's been great, but it hasn't come along without its pain. But
Right.
I don't learn. It takes a lot for me to learn, so I need to really have someone beat it into my head, and it was literally my God shot. And we'll get to that here in a little bit. Um,
Mm.
so when I moved to Colorado, it worked out nicely because the person that I moved across the street from owned a Domino's Pizza, and it was Dave Storter, and his Domino's Pizza, store 6289. He asked if when my parents moved over if they had any kids, and there was me and the adopted brother that One of my good buddies from school, from high school, he didn't go to school with me. We were just friends, and my parents kind of adopted him. Mike Anderson. He ended up moving out with us, and we both got jobs there. And Mike moved away, and that's okay. You know,
Mhm.
I haven't talked to Mike in years, but he moved away, and so I still work for Dave. I worked for Dave for years. I think 10 years. I went from being a driver to being a manager for him, to having keys to the store, to Dave saying it's okay, fire up the ovens whenever you want. I don't care. Come and make pizza. So you know, it was really cool when I would get off for work and I'd come home. I'd bring all the leftovers, all the mistake pizzas. So I'd come home with
Right.
like 5 or 6 large pizzas and a couple orders of buffalo wings and some breadsticks and whatnot. And that was the big hit for the people that I lived with when I was
Right.
living with my folks. You know, always free food, and it was also a
Right.
hit because when we get off at the bar, well, we're all hungry. Well, I've got keys. Let's stop by. Go. It would take 15 minutes to fire up the ovens. I'd make whatever we wanted, and it was a great time. Just turn on the stereo in the store and make some pizzas, and we'd be all drunk and walking around there. Um, so ended up, I don't know. It was time to just change from working at Domino's. I felt like I had a bigger purpose than doing that,
Mhm.
and so I had a couple of odd jobs, which ultimately ended up where I was dealing Texas Hold'em at a bar, and the bartender and the owner were like, "You're really good with people. You have this way about you. Why don't you be a bartender?" Like, okay, I'll do that. So I've never bartended. I'll try it. It's something about fake it so you make it. What the
Right.
heck, So I started bartending, and man, what a shit show that was. So you've got the bar owners making the cardinal sin, two of the cardinal sins ever: drinking at their own bar being number one, and getting their staff drunk.
Oh boy.
They would
Yeah.
sit at the end of the bar drinking from as soon as the bar opened, and they would stay there till about 1, and they just be talking shit about the owners or about the other patrons, and they'd be feeding the bartender shots. Not wise, not wise.
Right.
So I'm in full tilt at this point, drinking, and one of the bartenders there, she likes to do meth. So we would finish up the
Mm.
shift, and I go over to her house, and she was, I was in my, I think, my 30s at the time. She was in her late 50s at that time. Really cool woman. I don't remember her name. Sorry if you're watching this. She was awesome. We had a great time, just tweaking out,
I don't remember your
smoking
name, but
smoking dope.
you are awesome.
I had a
Hey,
great
you
time
know
with you.
what?
I
If
had
you
a
don't
great time.
remember somebody's name and you remember that they were awesome, that's good too.
I could pick her out of a line, but I
Right.
don't remember her name.
Mhm.
Um, well, my buddy comes in, and on a Friday night, I'm working on bartending, and he throws this book at me, and I look at it. I'm like, "Ted, what is this?" And he's like, "Study. You're taking the test on Monday." I look down. It's the Colorado Department of Transportation CDL manual. Never driven a semi in my life. Have no idea. So I study for, I think, 2 hours over the weekend, and I go in on Monday and I take the test and I pass. Okay, so I've got my permit now. Because I have my permit, he gets me into a big rig, and I'm driving around with him, passenger. Well, I'm not passenger. I'm driving the truck with him, and he's the passenger. And I'm doing this for a week, and he's taking
Mhm.
me through different things and how to run the truck. Everything from the pre-check, the pre-trip, to how to float gears, to it's a bobtail water truck. So I'm learning how to
Mhm.
operate all of the different hydraulics, the tank itself, how to hook up to a cam lock hose and use a PTO pump, hook up to the tank, draw, discharge, put on a spreader for the water. Well, what ends up happening ultimately is the truck pusher that we're working for Toby's vacuum service. He likes to drink a ton. He starts his day about noon at different bars around Parachute Rifle area, and he just moves from bar to bar. The ultimate one that they finish up with, and I don't think it exists anymore, it's called the Hideout. It's in Parachute. It was in Parachute. And he would say, "I need to meet you at the office." and that was at the bar stool
Mm.
sitting at the bar. And when I walked in, there were these little plastic shot glasses, and they would, if someone bought a drink for you, they would put one, you would get one. And they were, I think they were like neon colored for some promotional thing that they were doing. Well, every time I'd show up, him and Zeke would have, I don't know, 10 of them sitting there for me. And those boys, those old cool codgers, love to drink straight Jägermeister. And I'm not a Jaeger guy. I never was. There was a period of my life that Jaeger bombs were hip and cool. It didn't ever agree with me. I don't like anise. That's just me. So
Me
um,
neither.
so we would, that ultimately led. I was living with Ted Medina at the time and Aaron Pinkerton, and we would drive up. We would carpool from Grand Junction up to Parachute Riflery every day, and that was the, we wanted to minimize our chances of getting a DUI because all three of us were going to end up drinking every night. And one of us had to be semi-dedicated not to drink as much so we could drive home and not get a DUI. Well, that worked out for all the carpooling. It didn't work out so well because now I'm a full-blown addict and alcoholic. And it's JUCO, Junior College World Series in Grand Junction. They hosted the JUCO World Series for baseball. We live right by the college. I can remember 935 Uray Drive. And out on Horizon Drive is where all the bars are. And there's a karaoke bar that we would go to. It was in the Hilton. We're driving back. I'm absolutely loaded. I hit a tree, completely uprooted.
Oh my goodness.
Unbeknownst to me, my bumper with my license plate is still sitting at the scene of the crime.
Oh God.
And my steering wheel is doing this to keep it straight, and it's not. It's a challenge. I wouldn't have been able to do it sober. Well, as soon as we get next to the college, boom, here come the lights, the blueberries and
Right.
cherries, and I get pull over, and they want me to do a roadside. I'm like, guys, I can't do this. Let's just do
Just
the
take
dang
me to
thing.
jail.
You know, you know better. I know better. Pull out the breathalyzer. Let's just go.
Right.
So they said, we'll give you a minute because you've been so cooperative. We'll wait till we get back to jail to give you the breathalyzer. So I get in. It's been at least an hour. We get back to jail, and I blow a .273.
Oh
So
wow.
not great at all, especially considering the amount of time that I had to sober up. I had no business driving. Now, to my credit,
Right.
some kind person went back to the scene of the crime and they picked up my bumper and my license plate. So they didn't know where I was.
Mm.
I was worried to death about that. I really was. So that was my
Right.
first DUI. And shoot, I don't remember when the first DUI was. Um, well, I ended up getting, um, so the company that I'm working for still keeps me on. They just hide
Mm.
me away off road. And I think that all's well. And I thought that I'm the only one. Well, unbeknownst to me, I'm one of 6 people that have a DUI that's still on payroll. One of those 6 guys blew through a DOT checkpoint because he was so nervous, and cops got him. Well, the next day, they were going to get
Mm.
audited. So that afternoon, all of us got called into the office, and all of us were let go because they didn't want us to still be on payroll when they got audited tomorrow. I
Right.
completely understand. I totally get it. Well, God's been so good to me. Almost nothing that I'd planned has come true. I'm doing my community service at the Eagles Club in Grand Junction. One of the guys there is like, man, you're really dynamic. I really like what you got going here. You should hire on here. I'm like, well, I've got a DUI. He's like, so do I. So, but you need to talk to Greg Balliger at Western Pump and Dredge. I'm like, okay, cool. I go down there. I get hired on. Greg's awesome. I get hired on, and I'm the 7th man on the crew for Occidental Oil and Gas. It takes me, I hire on as a frac 2, which is the entry level. Within 2 weeks, I'm a frac one, which is the next level up. Another 2 weeks, I'm a lead for the crew. Another 2 weeks, the crew goes from 7 to 40. Now the operation has gone from servicing one drilling rig to a big frac operation. I was writing $700,000 to $900,000 a day tickets. So we had
Oh,
30
wow.
pumps, probably 5 filter pods, 40 guys on shift on 2 different shifts, 7 days a week, servicing completions for the fracking, the drilling rigs, and production for the production team. So we're doing all that stuff. Well, give another month, and they recognize talent. They give me my own account. So I'm in charge of the Williams Highlands account. Gorgeous views, awesome time. Now, because of the oil and gas, I'm on random drug tests. So I stop doing drugs. I don't stop drinking. And I need to caveat or need to hold back what I'm saying. I didn't stop doing drugs. I just stopped doing the drugs that stay in your system a long time. Now, this
Right.
means that I'm just blow because I've got 24 hours, as long as I'm not doing massive amounts of it, to get that out of my system. And I can take drug tests.
Right.
Now, it's still risking it. It's still a risk because if I get hurt, drug test. If they have a random or a reasonable suspicion, drug test.
Mm-hmm.
You fast forward a little bit, unbeknownst to me, Dan Jarrett took me off. He was the field operations manager. He took me off the list of people because he thought I was doing drugs. He took me off the list of randoms completely. I was one of like 25 people in the company that weren't even on the list to be cycled through. They were not happy about that. When they found out about that, for 2 years straight, I was taking one drug test a week. So, and it was well, I'm out in the field. It doesn't matter. We'll send someone out to the field so you can collect. Okay, that's fine. I mean, I'm at that time when they were doing that, I was working out of state. It was complete remote random locations. I it's okay. It's okay because the beauty is too, I wasn't doing any drugs at that time at all, except for alcohol. Now, that's no excuse because alcohol not good. Alcohol bad.
Right.
So that leads me up to the second DUI. I'm at Lake Powell, and if anyone's been to Bullfrog Marine in Lake Powell, there's the parking lot, and there's the boat ramp, and then there's the marina right below. So I get dropped off at the dock, and I'll go up to the truck, pick up the truck, and back up the boat ramp or back the trailer down the boat ramp, and there were the Rangers lighting me up.
Hmm.
And if anyone's been to Lake Powell in the afternoon or late, like early evening, it gets nasty out there. And the doc is doing this number, and that's where they're giving me my sobriety test. And it's just the joke. Like, guys, this is not. No one could ever pass this.
Right.
And I didn't say I couldn't pass this sober. I just said no one could pass this.
Right.
So they gave me the breathalyzer. Well, first breathalyzer comes out 0.8. I'm like, guys, I'm dead. Try again. 0.4. If I'm not dead, I'm close to it, guys. Next one.
Right.
0.3. Like, guys, I wouldn't be conscious.
Right.
Next one's a 0.4 again. Like, guys, your equipment sucks. Let's just go to the station. So they take me to this station. It's I don't know how to describe it. It's like something. It's like Barney Fife worked at this station. It's one jail cell. It's this tiny little station. It's really it's funny. It's cute, and it was cool too because they let me. They were the coolest sheriffs ever, or the Rangers. They left the door open. They wheeled the TV over. They brought me magazines. We played some cards. I ordered dinner from the Anasazi Restaurant Resort. I had a burger, and that was great. Now, not so great is that Lake Powell's a national park, and because it's a national park, it's not a felony, but it's a federal offense. Federal offense means because of that, I go to federal prison, and I'm on U.S. federal probation, so it's not just your usual state probation. So
Right.
I go to Hurricane Federal Penitentiary because that's the closest one in Utah to the Lake Powell area, and I go for 14 days. Now, my cellie was the 3-time convicted murderer. So when I get in, the first 72 hours were 72-hour lockdown, and I didn't get out because they were too full in GP. And I get in, and he's like, what did you do? I'm trying to think. I'm going to be hard, right? Well, those kind of like going back to Pee Wee's Big Adventure. The tags on mattresses. They do not take off the penalty of law. I tore one of them off. I'm a bad motherfucker. It's like, what did you do? I killed 3 people. I'm like, oh, you win. And then he looks at me. He's like,
That's
well, you want
awkward.
to smoke? Like sure, let's smoke. And it's amazing what convicts can do. He pulls out a fishing line, and if anyone, I don't recommend this, but if anyone who's been to prison or jail can envision a cell block and what it looks like, there's a kick plate. I'm on the 2nd floor upstairs on the way corner, and there's a kick plate just under the railing, and he threw out the fishing line over the kick plate and down to the bottom floor, 4 cells down. Someone threw out another line, got his line, pulled it in, and that's how they exchanged the lighter. So there was 1 lighter on the block. He had not tobacco, but he had marijuana hidden in the toilet. So my first night there, we smoked pot. It was the craziest thing ever. I never in
It
a
is,
million
because
years thought I'd
how
do
do the
that.
officers just not smell it? Or they
I
just
mean,
let
with
it go,
contraband, I
one or the
think that
other.
would be right. Right. I could, in retrospect, I look back and think, having been to jail, and again, I don't want to give away the good stuff, but my understanding, county jail is so much worse than prison. And
Hmm.
it's having seen both sides, I could agree with that. But like you were saying, Leslie, how did he possibly get away with that? I mean, the COs must have
I
been
mean, you can see
completely
my
blind.
naivety. I have never been to prison. That is, one thing that I managed to avoid. So I don't know.
So I get out of this, and God bless the people that I work for at Western Pump, because they let me have a breathalyzer in my company truck. So when I went to prison, I actually drove the company truck down and then drove back up. And all the while I was working for them, I had a breathalyzer in that truck until I don't remember when I got it out, but I worked for Western Pump from 2016 till I worked for them for almost 10 years. Well, we fast forward a little bit, and I'm working out of town so much for Western Pump that one of my buddies who had worked with at Western Pump and Dredge is now working for a company called Magna, and Western Pump was bought out by a company called Rockwater. It's the whole consolidation thing in the oil field that happens. Big bank by little bank, and I end up having to go all over the place, and I'm just tired of living out of a suitcase and living in hotels. There's just something to be said about pooping in your own toilet, and sleeping in your own bed. It's just amazing. So I was making, I don't know, for for the majority of my life, I was making over $150,000 a year. Now, to some, that may seem like a lot, and it was very comfortable. To me, I'm not satisfied with that. I know that I'm going to be making a lot more than that coming up, and I just know it. In my heart of hearts, I know it's going to happen. And well, my buddy at Magna Marquis said, "Come on over. You're not going to make what you made before, but at least you're staying at home." So I came on with Magna, and I was working for shoot, we had a bunch of different accounts, and it was like drinking from a fire hose when you come onto a pre-existing company that has like 10 different vendors, or not vendors, but customers they're working for, and all these different crew members. So it took me a while to absorb that and just figure it out, get my bearings set. So I did that, and it came down to a certain point where we lost all the customers but one, and it was bread and butter because this customer was big, and PDC Energy was the name of the company, and Mike Schweitzer. Well, the Magna ended up getting bought out by Ranger Energy Services, and no one liked where that was going. They were all about their wireline and their the rig division, which was work over rigs. So it was cleaning out, fishing. They were doing a lot of work for different people, but that was their bread and butter. And the water transfer division was really the redhead stepchild of the oil field. Now, looking back too, it's a great entry level position because anyone can do it. You know, it's not like working on the rig, and that's what most people think when they work for the oil field. They see the derrick in their mind, or there's the fracking has gotten a lot of really bad publicity. And in retrospect, when I look back, it's not good for the planet. I can't lie. I can't lie. No different from when we were conditioning water, when I was working for Rock Water. There was a division that they worked for that I didn't work for, but I worked closely with, and it was for cleaning up spills. And its cleanup is a joke. If they don't clean up an oil spill in the ocean, it's dispersal. Because if they can measure parts per million in a cubic foot of water or liter of water, there's tolerances. But if they can spread that out, well, there's less of it to measure. That's not ethical to me. I think that's BS.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, I was really, because I was working for the oil field, I was all about it. Now I look back and I think, man, you guys are scumbags.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying go jump and buy an electric car, because I have huge problems with electric car. That battery is toxic as all. What do you do with that battery? What do you do with the solar panels? That's great. I'm all for sustainable energy if it can be sustainable.
Right.
I know I'm getting off topic a little bit, so getting back in. Um, the completion superintendent, Mike Schweitzer, looks at Matt Snedden and I and says, "All right, buddy, guys, if you start your own company, I will give you 100% of the business." Like, wow, okay. Matt and I run some numbers, and I feel like we can do this. I really feel like we can do it on our own. Matt's not so confident. He's like, we got to get an investor. I'm like, all right, all right. And everyone in the industry knows the deal. It's the unwritten rule. Mike hasn't made that public, but everyone knows what's going on. So we are the hot commodity. Everyone in the oil field wants to hire us because they know that they are hiring a multi-million-dollar pair of guys. And after our first year in business, it proved right. We made 12. We opened up that business it was March 21st of 2018. And from March till December, we made $12.9 million. So they were right. We were the $1 million kids. Well, they referred to us, because the company we opened was called Big Creek Resources. We referred to negatively around the patch as the Big Creek kids. Well, the guy that we were brought on with, that we brought in as an investor, was really ultra aggressive. And I don't want to speak bad of him. I mean, ultimately, I don't know, being in recovery, it's given me, like, I've taken off the polarized glasses and I can really see with open eyes. And I recognize that he was doing the best. And he's on my amends list for sure. I know that I ended that whole relationship poorly. And I reacted poorly. It was the pour me another drink, woe is me, the whole world's against me. And I know that that's not the way. How do I get rid of that? So I didn't know if that records the thumbs up. So well, we're doing well in business. It's 2018. We move on to about 2019, like the end of 2019, and I get involved with this toxic, narcissistic woman. And I don't care if anyone knows. Her name's Taylor, and she's all about herself. And what makes me truly sad is she doesn't believe in God, and she's still out there running amok. And I don't know. I wish the best for her. I pray for her every day. I really do. Well, I was doing terrible things with her, and she ends up shooting me in the head. And it's May 31st of 2020.
Yeah, because you definitely got to back up. You
Oh,
can't just start with, she shot me in the head.
So I'm hanging out with her, and we are we're doing all kinds of crazy stuff together. Um, I I'm in full blown addiction at this point. Having my own company, I don't have to worry about getting drug tested anymore. I'm doing uh, I'm doing crack cocaine, methamphetamines, ecstasy. My pill, it was my pill drawer basically because my nightstand, my top drawer of my nightstand, had different little cups, and there were about 20 different pills. I was a pharmacy, and that was well, I'm going to drink, and when I drink, I'm going to do blow because that seems like a logical next step. And when I do blow, well, I want to go to bed, so let's grab a Valium or some Percocet or whatever seemed to be the cocktail of choice for that night. Xanny bars were popular choices, and I would do that and go to bed. And that was wash,
Mm-hmm.
rinse, and repeat. Um, I was shooting a lot of pool with Taba, and we were going out. Um, I lived in downtown Denver. My apartment was had a great view. If you went out my balcony, you look left, you could see Union Station, gorgeous shot of it until they built the Whole Foods there. You look to the right, and you could see the mountains on the foothills of Denver, right outside of there, and that was great. But I got tiring. It got so old. I did that for 5 years living downtown, and I just got tired of the scene, and I was ready to stop partying at that point. So at least with what downtown had to offer. Being in the oil field, I would have I had access to the Big Four, so I had access to Rockies tickets, the Denver Nuggets, the Avalanche, and the Denver Broncos. And company men would come down, and we would go out, have dinner, we'd drink at dinner, we'd go to the game, we'd drink a lot at the game. They knew I was the plug, so we do a lot of blow, and then we would do blow and drink at the strip club, and that was every other night, pretty much for 5 years. So I'd had my fill. I'd had my fill, and it was I don't know. Everything has to come to an end, and I wouldn't say all good things
Mm-hmm.
have to come to an end because I don't classify that as a good thing.
Right.
Um,
And if people don't know, alcohol and cocaine, one of the most toxic combinations for your body. It becomes this whole, the name is escaping me now. I'll put it in the comments later, but it becomes this whole other chemical in your body, and it's toxic. It is a toxic combination.
yeah. So I'm just lucky that at the time, you figure that was 8, 9 years ago. That was pre-fentanyl. Before that was a big hit. So
Yeah.
and whatever fentanyl's turned into, that terrifies me. I mean, it's not a safe
Yes.
place. Kids, do not do drugs.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Everything is laced with
So
fentanyl now. Even pot. You can get pot and it'll be laced with fentanyl. It's terrifying.
yeah, yeah. So we are leading up to that terrible day. I was doing a very powerful form of MDMA, which was very hallucinogenic.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing acid, and if anyone knows about acid, you can't do it multiple days in a row. You got to take a small break for your brain to reset before you can twist it again. So
Mm-hmm.
I was on a week-long bender of that, and I was taking 3 to 4 hits at a time of really, really powerful stuff. Most people would take a quarter. I was taking a half a strip. It was just kind of what I do. Just go big, go hard.
Mm-hmm.
I've never known to do just a little bit. It's always
Yeah.
let's do this. There's this much. Well, this much has got to be awesome. Let's do that. So, um, so I'm on my week-long bender of acid all the while. Um, I'm doing some blow in there, but I take kind of a break on cocaine. It just wasn't as much fun. I was I'd gotten really wrapped up into, and I was thinking that I was being really smart about it because I was doing methamphetamines as like coffee. I'd wake up in the morning, and I just do a bowl. And then most days I could make it until I got home, and that was cool. And then I would stop by a certain time, and I would just do it again. Well, that's only fun for so long, and then my addict brain kicks in and says, "Well, let's do some more, and some more, and some more." And next thing you know, I'm doing it all day long. Not great, not great at all. Well, that leads me into I don't remember anything that happened. I remember waking up in the hospital. God bless my sister. She came down from Eden Prairie down to Colorado. And I wake up in the hospital to go to the bathroom. And I look in the mirror and I'm like, what the heck happened to my head? I've got a pounding headache. And my sister lets me know you commit 2 felony counts of domestic violence. And again, I don't want to fast forward, but that's so I was sitting in a hospital bed, and that's what happened.
Oh wow.
So the bullet went in the front, and right out the top. They, God bless them, because they all thought that I was a woman beater. So they were. My sister says they were not treating me well. They were talk badly about me whenever they possibly could. But they did their job. They still had a Hippocratic oath to fulfill, and they removed a partial lobectomy of my prefrontal cortex, and they had to do that to clean out the bullet hole and the fragments from the bullet. So they did that. Well, I don't remember. I lost memory one day prior to the accident, and then apparently I was talking the whole time, even up to one day after I was admitted to the hospital, because my buddy came to visit me and said we were having a great conversation, but I don't remember it. I remember the fourth day when I woke up from what I thought being unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so I was in the hospital for 2 weeks, and then I get out of the hospital, and my family had gotten me in touch with a lawyer that was supposed to be giving me the family discount and working for me out of Denver. Met up with him, and I know he was doing the best that he could, but he didn't get anything done. He didn't get anything done.
So just to be clear, so she accused you of domestic violence.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And okay, I'm sorry. I guess I need to back it up a little bit. When this all happened, she has the balls to start a Facebook live stream of the event and throws her phone under the end table. You can hear it clearly when the sheriff shows up and says, "What happened?" And she says, "I shot him." And they say, "No, you mean he shot himself." Not great. Not great. So there's that. The discovery reveals that she admit to shooting me in the head in an interview. And there's not a single person in forensic history that believes that is a suicide wound. They all said that the gun was pointed in a downward position. I was laying on my back when she did it. There were 2 rounds in the floor, one of them from exiting from my head, and the other one just when she missed. I don't know how you miss. It was 6 to 10 inches away from what they said.
Right.
So, but at any rate, by God's grace, there I go. And it's clear that he had something more planned for me,
right?
Something greater. So now I guess we could fast forward a little bit. Terrible lawyer. I end up getting what I refer to as a public pretender. And unbeknownst to me, the public defenders in that area actually is a very good jumping point for their career. If they have a high profile case and they do well with it, it gives them an opportunity to advance more rapidly into whatever their desired field is, whether it's to be a judge or otherwise. So Molly Talbert was my lawyer, and she carried me through, and God bless the pandemic. So I'm still in Colorado when this is going on. Right around mid-August, my landlord says, "This wasn't part of the agreement. We're terminating your lease. You have 2 weeks to move out." I'm in no capacity to do anything. God bless my sister for taking care of me. It's not like I had to learn how to walk and read and write and talk again. but I can't take care of myself. I'm in no
Mhm.
capacity to drive myself, carry anything, process certain things. Um, my cognitive abilities are certainly impaired at that point.
Right.
Well, God bless a couple of my buddies from the Western Slope, because now I'm on the Front Range. I'm just north of Denver in a city called Meade. They're over on the Western Slope of Colorado, near a town called Montrose, and Hotchkiss. In
Mhm.
2 days, those boys came over, and my sister and I had packed up my entire house into the garage. And when they got there, we we packed up a U-Haul and we moved it all the way over to Hotchkiss. And now I'm waiting for the approval from my probation officer, because the only place I've got to go is Las Vegas. My little brother lives in Centennial Hills in northwestern Las Vegas, Nevada. So that's where my brother and his family, my mother, and then my sister came with me. She stayed with me for a couple of months, and luckily, she was able to work remote for her job. She's a HR specialist for United Health Group. Well, I was saying thank goodness for the pandemic, because all of my trials and court dates were all done WebEx, so I
Mhm.
didn't have to be present. I could just put on a button-up shirt, start the laptop, and that's how I did court. Um, and that was great. Well, I'm there in Las Vegas for 9 months, and now it's time to turn myself into jail. So I've been hard drug free since the time of the accident. So my sober date would have been 6/1 of 20 for hard drugs. Now, when I was in Las Vegas on the weekends, because my drug tests were only during the weekdays, and alcohol, I was figuring, well, I could have a little bit to drink. So I would go bowling, and I would get some, and at the bowling alley, I'd get a couple maker's marks neat, and I would drink those when I was bowling. And then I knew that if I did that Friday and Saturday, if I had to take a drug test, to be on Monday would be the earliest, and if I had to, I'd do it late in the day, and I'd be completely clean from that. So when I got to Colorado in June to turn myself in, well, first off, in Las Vegas, I had, again, my brain was a little scrambled still. And I thought when I was turning myself into jail, I thought I'd still need to have a place to live. I didn't realize, oh, jail's real. And I'm not gonna be able to go anywhere. So I had lined out a place to live, and I got on roommate.com or something like that. And I'd found a guy. Well, he wanted money up front. He wanted first and last, and up front, including the rent. So I sent him three Zelle payments for a total of 1,400 and some change before I left for Colorado. Well, I get to Colorado and I knock on the door. The guy answers, and the guy that's living there has no idea what I'm talking about. I'm like, shoot.
Oh
One
no.
of my buddies, he's like, you don't have a place to stay? Come stay with me. I'm like, okay. So I stay with him, and Chris Rodriguez is awesome. He's old guy that I worked with. Shot a lot of firearms with him, um, and he wants to celebrate. So he's got an old bottle of bourbon that he wants to crack into. We finished that off the first night that I'm there, and then before I turn myself into jail, I go down to say hi to one of my best friend's wives, widows, Alicia Brink Lovato, and she's a big Crown drinker. Both her and Chris were, and beer. So she greets me with those things, and that's normal for us. That's how it was. Um, so I she couldn't remember what day I visited her, and I can't figure it out either on my timeline. So I'm claiming that my true sobriety date, which I think was when I was in jail, is 5/24/21, is what I'm going with. So, because I'm pretty sure I had to turn myself into jail on the 19th of June, but that's neither here nor there. So I go to jail, and I've got a 6 month thing that I've got to work through. I'm 3 months in, and it's a work release is what I'm doing right now. Well, I'm not used to having to ask permission to do anything. I'm used to being the boss. I'm used to making schedules and giving permission, not asking for it. So I'm making mistakes constantly. One of the COs there recognizes, like, I don't think you're trying to fuck up, but you've been written up a bunch. Like, I'm sorry, man. It's like, well, and he lays out what I need to do, and I'm like, okay. Um, and this is also COVID protocol in the work release center, so you got to wear a mask everywhere you go in the common areas. This makes no sense to me. It's like going into a restaurant. You got to wear your mask to walk into a restaurant, but as soon as you sit at the table, you take it off. So just like with work release, we're in common areas and we have to wear a mask, but as soon as we get into the room or our little pod with 18 other guys or 17 other guys, we can take it off. This makes no sense to me, but where it's all open air, we're exposed to everything. 3 months in, I get back from work, and what do you know? I'm getting something to eat. I take a shower. I'm watching some TV, and I can hear from behind me a couple guys walking up, and it's two sheriffs and one of the COs, and they say that you've been regressed. You're coming with us. I'm like, okay. I'm in my pajamas. I'm in my slippers. At least I got to eat something. Well, they take me to jail, and I spend the last 3 months in normal county jail. And truth be told, not a bad thing. I don't mind it. I mean, it gives me perspective. Every day that I was in there, it reminded me the power of a positive mental attitude, the power of prayer, and the power of perspective. You know, I got to wake up and say, okay, thank you, God, for the gift of another day. Thank you for not much, but thank you for the food in my belly. Thank you for a warm, safe place to sleep at night. And having gratitude was enough to carry me through. The 3 months went by pretty quick, and I only had one kid that I would call a Sully. The rest of them, I would say, were good guys, and I call them roommates. It was fun. It was like camp, really shitty camp. I read a lot of books.
Really
played a lot of
shitty
cards.
camp.
Yeah, yeah. So I get out November 2nd at 9 a.m. I'm released from jail, and it's raining outside. It's a cold day, and when I was in jail, 2 weeks into jail, I got a note, a letter saying you need to get your car moved from work release or we're towing it. And I'm freaked out because I no numbers. I don't know what I'm going to do. The only one number I had was Chris Rodriguez, and I called him. I wrote him a note, a letter, and no answer. And well, fuck it. If they take it, they take it. There's nothing I can do, and it's going to drive me nuts sitting in jail to worry about it. So I get out November 2nd, and I walk down in, I don't know, shoot, I don't remember how cold it was. It was like 34 degrees in my slippers and pajamas down to from the jail to the work release. I walk down there and I look, and I'm like, holy shit, there's my car. Huh, okay. So I walk in. I'm like, it's crazy. I never would have thought it, but you guys have the keys to my car and the rest of my stuff? Because there was a whole locker, and then there was a drawer of my things in my bunk that they would have had. Like, do you have my stuff? Because it'd be really nice to go with my car. And like, I'm surprised your car is there too. We should have towed that a long time ago. So get the car. That works out. Well, I have nowhere to live in Colorado. Everyone else is gone. So I'm homeless. Okay. This sucks. So I'm sleeping in my car. And I check all the shelters. No one's accepting guys. They're only accepting women and children. Now, it's not terrible because it's only 32 degrees. It's not maybe 20, 25, 26 degrees, but at least I got my car. Now, it's not ideal because at the time I had a Honda Accord. It was a 2006, and I had as much stuff as you can put in that thing as possible. So I can't put down the seat. So I'm sleeping upright, kind of off to the side, but at least I've got a place to sleep. You know, I get cold, so I'll wake up in the middle of the night. I'll turn on my car, turn it back off. It's okay. So finally, a shelter opens up. I get into the shelter. I stay in there for a couple of weeks, and I'm looking at the resources that they have. And one of the things there, it's called Jobs of Hope. and it's a sober living house. I didn't know it at the time when I applied for it. Um, I get into that immediately. They make a spot for me. They have plenty of spots. They get me in. Um, it's intake was $100 to get in, so I had to work. I didn't have any money, so I had to work for. I worked a 1 day job doing concrete forms at the Greeley Stampede for a day, and it got me enough to get to pay the first month's rent. So I got in. I did that for a couple months. Ended up while I'm there, I'm completely in denial because it's a sober living home and I'm passing the drug tests. There's twice a week they're doing meetings there. I'm denying the fact that I was an addict. Now I'm still friends with one of them, Cisco. I love you, brother. I keep in touch with him. I miss out on a couple of the guys that were there when I was there. The rest of it's just a part of what brought me to here. I get on TikTok while I'm there, and that's in January of last year. I I make my first TikTok, and it's crazy the amount of support that comes out of the woodworks from the TikTok recovery community.
Mhm.
They're all over rallying behind me. Well, one of those people, I'd found out that after the fact, Wase, and actually I saw her this morning at my AA meeting in person. Wase flying out, she lives one town away from me here in Minnesota, in Eden Prairie, where I live in Eden Prairie. Well, she says, let's meet up sometime. And there's this Al Anon meeting. Okay, I'll meet you there. Meet up with her. It's in Egan, which is not very far from where I live now. And she's like, I got a buddy that I'm going to bring. I'm like, cool. Well, that buddy's Tim Peterson. And if you're in the recovery community, that's huge. He's kind of a big, they call him KOABD, kind of a big deal. I think he's got 76,000 followers. He's what they call TikTok famous. So we finish up at the Al-Anon meeting, and he's hosting one of the many Zooms, recovery Zooms. So we get on, and I check that out, and it's that's the beginning. And I dig in deep, just like everything in my life. I'm going to be the best at doing this. So they said 90-90. Fuck your 90-90. I went to 5 recovery Zooms a day for 30 days, 90 days straight, and I was just really into it. One of those meetings was Sober Horizons, and again, if people know, Skip Elliott is a big name in the recovery community. Well, they were talking about sponsorship. I'm like, dude, I'm looking for a sponsor. Would you be my sponsor? He's like, well, we need to meet up first. Like, okay. Things in my life were working out to where I didn't have time to meet. And he kept on pushing it, pushing it, pushing it. He's like, dude, I can't wait around forever. I'm coming to you. Just give me your address. I'll come over. Because we were supposed to meet up at the intergroup downtown Minneapolis. Well, he shows up, we visit, and Skip, God bless him, buys me my first big book. So buys my first big book. We talk about share stories, and Skip's like, I've got a couple of sponsors already, but I'd like you to give Tim a try. And if it doesn't work out, you can always fall back on me. Well, worked out. Tim's awesome. And it's nice because I've got 2 generations of great fellowship with those two. Skip and Tim. It's awesome. And I said before that 164 pages of this book saved my life. And I didn't realize until I got in the rooms of AA that I don't get to do this ever again. I was loitering with the intent to recover. And I thought I would, under conditions of my probation, I would just stop drinking for now. I knew drugs were done. I couldn't do drugs anymore, but I just stopped drinking for now. And then when I'm done with probation, I could drink again. But I realize now I have SUD, and I'm an addict. I have an addictive personality. I am the problem. I get it. And I don't get to run this show anymore. This is, like I said before, thank God that almost nothing that I had planned to come true in my life. I was spiritually bankrupt, and I needed something greater than myself. And the first 3 steps are perfectly clear to me. I can't, he can, I'll let him. And before I leave the house every day, I've got to work through my first 3 steps every day. At work now, frustrating situations. I have to work a step 10 on a pretty regular basis. And it's nice now that I can close that gap on the amount of time that it takes me to do that. It used to take weeks before I'd have to do that. Then it would drop to days. Now I can do that within hours. And that's just simple. All right, guys, I know that I fucked up. I know it's my fault. I don't want to live there anymore. Let's live in a solution. What can we do to fix it? I want to be a part of the solution.
Right.
Yeah. So and God, I can't do it without God. And that's another thing, put God first. Oops, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
That's, he's been, God has been awesome. He has completely changed my perspective on life. Being able to truly surrender to a higher power. And that's something I'm doing lately too. In my men's group, I do a church men's group on Friday mornings at 6:30. And I never in a million years thought I'd be sitting here on the other side of the screen saying, I sure hope I get shot in the head. I sure hope I go to jail for 6 months. And I'm going to be spouting Bible verses, but here we are. I'm doing it. John 16:24, until now you haven't asked for my name. Ask and you will receive, and your peace will be restored. Now, when I wake up in the morning now, it's basic. I thank God. Thank you, God, for the gift of another day. Thank you for the gift of another day sober. Thank you for removing as many of my character defects as you see fit. I know that I don't get to drive the bus anymore. I've been there, done that. I've tried that. I've been fired from being the manager of my store. I've been lynched of getting off the cast and crew for my story. It's okay. And please remove my wanton will to drink, drug, and watch porno. And until I asked for that, I remember walking by the movie theater thinking, man, I'd love to have one. They got Blue Moon on tap. I'd love to have one. Fuck you, Rob. You don't need one. You know that. I'm the classic case of one's always too many, a thousand's never enough. Most people party till the morning. I party till I get felonies. You party go home. I party go homeless.
Right.
So I don't, I'd love to try it that way, but I know that I don't get to do that anymore. And that's something that the rooms of AA, the big book, and the program has taught me. This is the new norm. I have to pivot. I got the news. I got the news this week that I knew it in my heart of hearts, but I got the news this week from my lawyer that my domestic violence charge got reduced, but it's to a misdemeanor domestic violence charge, not removal of domestic violence charge. So I don't get to own a firearm ever again. That sucks. I used to shoot a lot, and I loved it. I love hunting. Well, if I love hunting so much, I can learn archery. I can do that. So it goes back to changing my perspective and saying, I get to. I don't have to do anything. No one has to do anything. You got to show up, and that's everything. Everything I do now in my life, I've got to ask myself: lighthouse or tugboat? Because lighthouses don't go around the harbor chasing for boats to save. They work on building a firm foundation, and they attract other people. So I want my scars and my story to serve as that lighthouse for others heading for the same rocks.
Nice.
That's what I want to do.
That's great. Well, Rob, we're glad you're alive, first of all.
Good to be here.
I'm glad you're alive. And, I just want to thank you for sharing your story and putting yourself out there and, being that lighthouse for other people. And if people want to find you, and reach out, where can they find you on social media?
On social media, they can find, this is my profile pic, and my name's Rob Schellschmidt. For Facebook. On TikTok, where are you at? I'm at Rob Schmidt _Raptor2. And I'm Raptor2 because the first one that I started was just Raptor without the 2, but I'd forgotten I'd forgotten my password. So that I got number 2. On Twitter, I'm all one word, Rob Raptor TBI 2. And I'm a 2 because the first account was hacked by a hacker that has managed to, thank you, hacker, for taking $35,000 from me. Not appreciated. It's okay. It goes back to things that I don't have to do anything, but I get to reinvent myself. It's so awesome.
Right.
And then on Instagram, I'm rob.raptor.
Cool. Well, thank you again,
Did I
Rob. I'm
miss
glad
any
that we
social
were.
media?
Hmm?
Oh, I was asking myself, thinking out loud, did I
Oh,
miss any social media?
gotcha. Well, I'm glad that we finally got to do this. Um, Rob and we had to redo it because the other laptop just died. So I'm glad we finally got to do this, and thank you so much again. Um, that's going to do it for this episode. I was going to say something poignant about it being like the first episode ever, but forget all that. That's going to do it for us. Remember to like and subscribe. I'm your host, Leslie. This is the Recovery Scene, and addiction isn't pretty, but recovery is beautiful, and we will see you next time.